welcome. The world was thrown into chaos yesterday as explosions rocked the Russian capital. Just hours after a Ukrainian drone reportedly crashed into a Kremlin wall. But Russia's swift response may cause an even bigger problem for Ukraine. Today on the newscast, find out why all hell is breaking loose as a Russian drone strikes NATO. Have you ever noticed how often the word imminent is used when talking about Russia and Ukraine? Imminent invasion, imminent counteroffensive, imminent collapse. It seems like every other day there is some news story about something that is about to happen on the front lines in Ukraine. And I don't say that to make light of the situation or minimize what's happening there. It's just interesting how many things are always imminent, but never seem to materialize. Well, now we have another imminent event. Imminent collapse of sorts in NATO as Russia has responded to this alleged drone strike on the Kremlin. Now first, let's get some facts straight. We still don't know who was behind this drone strike on the Kremlin. We don't know if it was Ukraine or Russia itself, some kind of false flag operation. Remember, the Kremlin is the seat of the Russian government, so it would be very serious if a Ukrainian drone were to strike the Kremlin. At the same time, though, if Russia were to strike the Kremlin with its own drone to manufacture consent for further escalation, well, that would also be very serious. Now, President Vladimir Putin claimed that it was Ukraine that sent the drone, and he vowed, quote, "We will strike them," end quote. This is really serious. The Russian government is blaming Ukraine, but we don't know that for sure. What we do know is that there were explosions last night in Moscow. Russian authorities said they shot down 3 Ukrainian drones over the capital. And then shortly after that, there was a fire at the Ministry of Defense in Moscow. So clearly some kind of incident happened there. And I know that there are people who are saying this is all propaganda. No way this could actually happen. Well, the fact is, it did happen. Explosions were recorded. There were sonic booms heard over Moscow. People were shaken awake in their homes. They went outside to see what was going on, saw the flames. This is not propaganda. Something happened. Now, so far, we haven't seen any footage of the aftermath. It's pretty amazing that there aren't more pictures and videos floating around out there right now of the supposed damage to the Kremlin. And that alone, I think, should tell us something. Why isn't Russia showing us pictures of the damage? If this was such a significant blow to the Russian government, wouldn't they want to show the world that? But they're not. They've been very tight-lipped. They're saying an investigation is underway, but they won't show us anything. Yes, they've released the date of May 3rd. That is the date they claim the drone hit the Kremlin. But they're being very tight-lipped, so again, we have to wait and see here. I wouldn't rule anything out. The big question is, what does Russia do next? And it appears they have already struck back. There were reports coming out last night of explosions in Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, and Ukrainian officials confirmed this morning that indeed Russia had launched an attack against them. Here's what the spokesman for Ukraine's Air Force said, and I'm quoting tonight. The Russian occupiers carried out an attack on Kiev with the help of Iranian drones. All the drones were destroyed. Now, Kiev officials said that debris from one of those drones fell in Podil district in the city center, but no damage or casualties were reported. So evidently, Russia sent in some kamikaze drones, and at least some of them reached their target, but they weren't packed with explosives. Otherwise, we would probably have seen a lot more damage. Still, this is a major event, because it is the first time that Ukraine's capital has been hit by a drone attack since the war began 2 years ago. Now, to me, this was a pretty swift response by Russia. We're talking hours between the alleged drone strike in Moscow and then the retaliatory strike against Kiev. You have to figure that Russia knew that this might happen, that they might get blamed for this drone strike, whether they were behind it or not. So I think they wanted to have a response ready to go, and they did. They didn't wait long before they came back swinging and striking Kiev. This raises several red flags for Ukraine. First of all, if Russia can get drones into the airspace of Moscow, that shows how vulnerable Russia's air defenses are. If they can't stop these relatively small, slow-moving drones from reaching Kiev, then what does that say about their ability to defend against missiles and fighter jets? Secondly, this is a major embarrassment for Ukraine's air defense system. Remember, this is Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, supposedly one of the most well-defended places in the country. And Russia was able to send in some drones, and at least some of them reached their target. They got into the city. So this is a major black eye for Ukraine's air defense system. And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, this is a massive escalation. For the first time, Russia has directly attacked Ukraine's capital. And remember, we're not talking about Crimea or the Donbass region where there is an ongoing war. We're talking about central Kiev. This is a direct attack on Ukraine's heartland. Now, Ukraine could have done this. They have the military capability to strike Moscow and hit some important targets. But Zelensky has been very reluctant to do so. He fears provoking Russia to escalate further. And indeed, Russia has escalated. They've crossed that line. They've gone right into the heart of Ukraine's capital. If Ukraine doesn't respond, if they don't strike back at Moscow, if they allow themselves to be attacked without responding, then they will lose all credibility. Zelensky will look weak. It doesn't matter if Russia did this to make up an excuse for further aggression. The fact is that Russia has struck Kiev, and Ukraine must respond, or else they will be humiliated on the world stage. So I expect Ukraine to respond with force. We may see them striking Moscow again tonight. And when that happens, we can expect Russia to respond again. This could spiral out of control and lead to a broader conflict between Russia and NATO. And then it gets even worse, because Turkey has just announced that they are closing the Black Sea Straits to all non-Russian vessels. What they're doing is invoking Article 19 of the Montreux Convention. This is an international agreement which allows Turkey to shut down the Black Sea Straits to foreign vessels in times of war. Why is this a problem? Because it affects grain exports. The vast majority of Ukraine's grain exports go through the Black Sea. And the way it works is the grain is shipped across the Black Sea, across the Bosporus Straits into the Sea of Marmara, and then they go through the Dardanelles Straits into the Mediterranean. Well, now Turkey has closed those straits to foreign vessels. You can still ship grain out of the Black Sea, but only Russia can. So effectively, Russia has a monopoly on shipping grain out of the Black Sea. So this is a major escalation. And again, it leads to the possibility of a larger conflict. If NATO wants to keep shipping grain out of the Black Sea, they're going to have to fight Turkey to do it. And that would be disastrous for NATO. And it would mean, by the way, that they would have to lift those sanctions on Iranian oil, because Turkey is very dependent on Iran for oil. So they're not going to want to lose that lifeline. They'll probably have to turn back to Iran and beg for more oil. Look, this is getting crazy. All hell is breaking loose. I have no idea where this is going to go. We've been saying for months now that this thing could spiral out of control, and it looks like it's starting to do exactly that. And if you thought gas prices couldn't go higher, just wait until Turkey closes the straits completely. That'll drive up gas prices all over the world. Things are escalating quickly. Stay tuned, and remember, keep the main thing in the main. God Almighty still sits on the throne. He is in control. And no matter what happens in the days and weeks ahead, He is in control. So don't panic. Be vigilant. Pray for peace. Pray for wisdom for world leaders. Pray for the people of Russia and Ukraine, that's for sure. But remember, God is in control. Hey, thanks for joining me today on the newscast. Till next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow.